So you probably realize on this channel, I've been actually reviewing quite a lot of monitors just so I could see what the best budget one is for you guys to invest in, obviously for your cameras, but it really depends on the size of your cameras as well. I personally love 7-inch monitors for my larger cinema cameras and 5-inch monitors for my smaller, FX3s, FX30s, those kind of cameras, because obviously smaller monitors look better and feel better on smaller cameras. And this is a 5.5-inch monitor by Andycine. It's the X5. So this one's going to be really interesting for those smaller rigs. And I'll be testing on my FX30, but I've also been testing it on the Sony PMW F5, my large Cine Ultra camera. And it's pretty impressive. Now, is this budget $179 US monitor going to be worth it in your kit? Let's check it out. So the Andycine X5 is a 5.5-inch field monitor. It weighs only 249 grams. It's a 1920 by 1080 touchscreen display that displays 1000 nits of brightness. It has one HDMI in and one HDMI out, a 12-volt DC in. It has a headphone jack, 5-volt USB-C power input, an 8-volt DC output, an MPF battery plate on the back, has 3 quarter 20 mounts, comes with a cold shoe adapter, a HDMI to HDMI, a micro HDMI to HDMI, a USB-A to USB-C adapter, an MPF battery, and a hard case. All that depends on which kit you get. You can get it for about $169 on the website for the basic kit or $179 USD for the full kit. And prices may vary depending on where you get it from. So you guys know I love testing these monitors on set because I really like putting it through its paces on professional shoots to see, if there are any sort of problems that pop up and what kind of performance I'm actually going to get in the real world and not just in the studio. I will go through a whole bunch of the settings. It does have a very similar interface, if not pretty much exactly the same user interface as one of the other brands, which is a great thing because I love this user interface. And I did say that in that other monitor video. But I think one of the most impressive things right from the start happens to be this aluminium casing. Now, it's not a plastic design, it is aluminium and it feels absolutely rugged. This is what I love about these ones. Look, plastic ones feel perfectly fine as well. They do just feel a little bit cheap and you don't really know how long it's going to last, when it's constantly bumping around on set and, traveling to and from set as well. But you can see the great thing about this one is that it is a really nice, small, compact and thin design, and it's just really well built considering it's only $179 US. Now, one thing that is welcomed, and I love it within my workflow, is that you do actually have 3 mounting points, one at the top, one at the bottom, and one on the right-hand side. Now, this is going to be great if you do have to flip the monitor in a different direction, mainly for the fact that if you want, your HDMI cables to be in a slightly different spot, if you're obviously doing some sort of vertical rigs, it really depends on how you're going to be rigging this up, but it's great that you do see it on at least the bottom and the side, but you do have that top as well, and it kind of has that little indent for your RE locating pins, so your little magic arms won't be pivoting around, and that is a good thing. Now, there are 3 different power options as well. You can actually buy the version that comes with an MPF battery. It's an Andycine branded as well, and you can attach that directly through to the back. Otherwise, you do have a 5-volt USB-C cable, which I love about some of these budget monitors, is that you can literally power it through just 5-volt USB-C, which is so handy. Otherwise, you do have a 12-volt DC input on the side. Now, it does have an 8-volt output DC, so you can actually power other devices, which obviously is really nice. Now, if you are using HDMI directly in here, you do have a loop where you can loop the HDMI out into a video transmitter or directly to another camera, hardwiring it directly in. Really depends on what you want to utilize there, but having a HDMI in and out is pretty handy in some of the situations. Now, when it comes to the monitor brightness, this is the test I always do. I always put every single monitor up against the Atomos Ninja 5 because essentially that has 1000 nits of brightness and it seems to be quite accurate. There are some brands out there that say that they do 2000 nits, but it's never the case when I actually put it up against the Ninja 5. You can see here the Andycine X5 is in the middle, which is the main monitor. Then you've got the Atomos Ninja 5 on the right-hand side and the FX30's monitor on the left-hand side down the bottom, and it's pretty much the same. Like, it does seem like the Andycine X5 is a little bit brighter, just a touch, but they're both 1000 nits, which seems to be quite accurate and obviously decent enough to use outdoors. So anyway, let's go directly into the user interface and see what we actually get out of this monitor. So we're going to go directly into the operating systems right here. And we'll start with the first one, which is assists, and we've got all waves. So you can pretty much turn the all waves on, brings it up into the corners here. You've got your regular histograms on the side here, RGB histograms, YUV, and obviously the waveforms as well. But I actually prefer just to use the waveforms. But the great thing about this is that you can actually position the waveforms wherever you want on the screen just by sliding it across like this. You can also change the how see-through it is, which is really cool. It really depends on obviously your personal preference, but I like to just leave it in the corner, which is perfectly fine. But you can also change it just to YUV as well, or RGB waveform. So really depends on which one you prefer. I just prefer Y waveforms. Vector scopes, you can turn that one on. You can see there, this is where you can get nice sort of skin tone line that goes up towards the reds. And similar thing, you can position that over there if you want. Purely depends on how you shoot, but you can obviously monitor your skin tones, which is great. Now we'll go over to the histograms. Histograms, obviously another version of assisting. Focus assist now. So this one gives you the focus peaking level. So I like to use red, and level 9 seems to be fine, depending on which camera I'm actually utilizing it with. Level 8, 7, 8, 9 is pretty good, but I was using it with the F5 and level 9 seems to be working fine. Now if you have a whole bunch of red in the scene, definitely go for green or blue for your focus assist, but that's if you're just using manual focus lenses. If you're using autofocus lenses, you shouldn't have to worry about that. Embedded audio, so essentially you can put audio directly onto the file itself and monitor it through the headphone jack at the bottom, which is really cool. It just shows you where the monitoring levels are. Overexposure, this is obviously your zebras. You can turn the zebras on, and depending on what level you want to set it at, you obviously can just set it to skin tones, which sometimes skin tones is roughly about 42% IRE if you're going to be using it in log, depending on which gamma curve, which camera you're actually utilizing as well. But I tend to use the ones in camera and get it to display on the screen. Check field, you can actually turn the whole screen red, green, or blue, or just black and white. Sometimes black and white can actually make it easier to expose. I've got it, there we go, there's the image of the FX3. Black and white, red, green. Oh, there we go, red, green, blue, and black and white. Utilizing these check fields at nighttime can actually work better to get the right focal plane, but purely depends on how you shoot. Now you do have RE false color or normal false color. So false color is, oh, I would leave the check field off. There we go. False color will actually give you a representation of where your overexposure parts are. So you can see the scale here on the right hand side. Your reds and yellows are pretty much blown out. So you can see there, that's pure white information. That's blown out. And then you've got your skin tones, which is roughly the green / light pinkish. So skin tones are roughly there. You can just see an overall view of the scene. And you can see the blue over here, that's underexposed. Blue and purple is underexposed. And obviously you don't want that in your scene. That's where you'd have to boost up your ISO level to not get those underexposed levels. But obviously you're gonna have to take in consideration of where your overexposed is. So that's a whole nother video, but definitely false color is a brilliant way of checking your exposure levels. Now we'll check out the grids. You can do your 3x3s, which is your normal rules of thirds. Very, very good and handy to have, but you can also change the color of those grids. So it depends on if your focus peaking is red, then I would suggest use green or blue or white with these sort of marker grids. But obviously you can do a whole bunch of different grids and you can create custom grids as well. So that's pretty nice and handy. Safety frames, similar thing, it just gives you a whole frame on the outside where your safety markers are, just to make sure keeping things within those safety frames. Center marker, always nice to have on, just so you can see your center point. Nice little crosshair there, which is pretty handy. and then you've got your ratio marker. So if you do a lot of 9:16 shooting, which I do, you can tend to keep those on and see how it kind of just darkens or grays out the sides. That's handy because you can shoot in your 16:9 landscape and then just keep that 9:16 just, you know, in the back of your mind, which is really good because you can just frame it up for social media content. Very, very, very handy to have nowadays when we have so many different output formats. Now with the image, you've got your scan mode, underscan, overscan, aspect ratio, which is very similar, anamorphic mode. So I'm actually using a 1.33 times anamorphic. So that's actually a perfect D-squeeze right there. 1.33 times anamorphic, and you can see it's de-squeezed properly, which is great. But obviously if I'm not using anamorphic, then don't use the anamorphic de-squeeze, but you have 1.6, 2 times magnification, but you can also choose what squeeze factor you have as well, which some monitor companies just don't allow you to do that, because there are some that do 1.5, even if you're using an anamorphic adapter, let's say the Sure 1.25 times anamorphic adapter, then you can do 1.25. So this is very, very, very handy tool to have for those kind of anamorphic modes. Very cool. Now we do have the image flip. If you do end up mounting, you know, the monitor on the top or even on the side, you can go horizontal or vertical flip, which is very handy for those mounting options. Zoom mode, this is if you just want to zoom in and really get some critical focus. That is very handy to have there. Now go back to image. Where are we? Zoom mode, turn that one off. You can freeze the image, up to you. This is how you sort of can compare and do some match cuts if you want, and picture to picture as well. Now we do have the user option, so you can upload your own LUTs, and you can see I've got my Morris Hollywood LUT in there. I like to use that. You can see it's nice teal and orange sort of look. What you do have to do, because this one doesn't have a memory card, you actually have to have this device right here. So this is actually supplied, this little USB-A to USB-C. Then you just need a flash drive. Now you've got to make sure you format this to FAT32, and then the monitor is going to be able to read it. And then what you do is just obviously put this one into your computer, then you put the file directly on there, plug it into here, and then put it into the USB-C at the bottom here. Then all you need to do is go to LUT and then hit confirm, and that will actually load in that LUT, which is really cool just to see your overall look and what your image is going to look like. A lot of the times I generally leave it on S-Log, and I know it's pretty hard to look at sometimes and it's too flat for some people, but I generally just go by waveforms when it comes to my exposure. But it is nice to sort of show the client what the image may actually look like in post-production once you've actually done that. I want to put this image back onto, there we go, anamorphic mode, because I'm using an anamorphic lens, so I may as well leave it in that anamorphic mode. So that's your LUTs. It comes custom with S-Log 2, S-Log 3, Canon C-Log, and you've got your Panasonic V-Log LUT as well that you can actually choose. But obviously you can load in 32 different LUTs in here as well, and it saves it in here, so you don't actually have to keep this plugged in the whole time. Now it does have HDR mode. You've got the display where you can change just, you know, how bright or how dim the display will be. I've kept it on bright so you guys can see the screen, because you can see bright is just too bright. It's not great for you guys. You can change the brightness, contrast, saturation, and the overall tint if you don't just like the image of there. Similar thing with the colors. You can just change the colors, make sure you adjust the screen how you want it to look. This is personal preference, and it just fine tunes it to your camera, fine tunes it to your scene and whatever. Now in the shortcuts, you've got these buttons right here. You can just program different shortcuts there. I've got my all waves, center marker, and safety frames. So you can put pretty much whatever you want. See there, safe frames, let's go. I want to turn focus assist on and off. Instead of center marker, I want to change my anamorphic thing, and instead of the waves, I want like a zoom. So there we go, zoom mode. And if you want to zoom, look at that. Get the critical focus. I'm going to put it into manual focus mode. There we go, so manual focus mode. I've got my critical focus and I'm going to zoom in. Look at that, nice and tack sharp on that Sony logo because I've got that zoom. And then I'll zoom back out and start shooting. Really, really good thing to have. This is my anamorphics D-squeeze. I'm going to turn it off, and there we go. Focus assist on, focus assist off. So sometimes focus assist, like I said, you can dial in how strong you want your focus assist, but you can see there it's come on there, but I probably don't like that, because what you can do is dial it back to level 5. Okay, let's see where the focus point is now. There we go. See, actually, you could probably dial it to, I think with this lens, because it's a really sharp lens, I could go to 3 or 2 and still see the focus point. Yeah, probably can even go softer, but you can see there, just makes it easier to hit that focus. But this is where I like that zoom function, because this is where you can really dial in tack sharp focus. But that's how you utilize the custom functions. So keypad shortcuts, and then you've just got your regular user system, your language, your on-screen display options, EDID, volume, overall volume, the fan. Now, so this is the fan, okay? You guys are hearing this right here. It's on level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. 3, 4, 5 are relatively loud, but you would need this in really hot situations to keep this thing cool. Every monitor has these kind of inbuilt fans because you do want to keep these cool and stop them from overheating. Instead of turning it completely off, I like to just have it on level 1 and keep the fan running, but it will chew up a bit of your battery, but it's going to give your monitor longevity. Now you can actually update your firmware. It'd be a very similar system to just putting the new firmware on here and plugging it in. You shouldn't have any issues with the current firmware, or you could reset the whole system and it will go back to regular settings. But that's pretty much the overall look of the user interface. Definitely my favorite user interface I've ever used. So intuitive, super easy to use, and I just love this overall. So look, overall, $179 US. Obviously depends on which pack you get. They do vary from price. If you get the, the case, if you get the battery with it, I think it's like 10 or 15 US, a little bit different if you get one of those. But it's a very good monitor. It's very well built. I love the user interface. Like I said, it's very similar to the one that I've actually used before. It shares pretty much the exact same operating system, which I love. The power options with USB-C, MPF battery, DC power input. Overall, this monitor performs fantastic. I am very happy to utilize this with my smaller cameras. I have been utilizing it with my F5, which is a larger cinema camera, and 5-inch is actually, and 5.5 inch is and 5.5 inch on that camera, is actually okay. I do prefer larger monitors because I can see a little bit more with my larger cameras, but hey, personal preference. At the end of the day, if a 5.5 inch is perfect for you, then this monitor definitely is recommended. But I'll leave a link in the description below if you do want to check this one out. It is an Amazon affiliate link, so I do get a bit of a kickback if you do purchase through that link, so purely up to you. But thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.